hat on now. Okay. So I'm going to pretend like I haven't already greeted you. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Thanks to those who are watching on the Zoom. Hello, Zoom people. And let's give a nice round of applause to thank our candidates for agreeing to serve our community. I'm Ellen Marcial. I'm chair of the nominating committee. 3 of my 4 colleagues on the nominating committee are here today. Gail Olenek and Tony Schwab are over here at the timers table. And Ruth Gross is here, and she'll be helping out a little bit later. Nominating committee secretary, Pat McCardle, couldn't be here today, but I think she's watching on the Zoom, so hi, Pat. I would also like to recognize Lee Mansis and Anita Romaine, who are handling the recording of the candidate forum for later viewing and also handling the Zoom. So thanks to Lee and Anita. Yes, thank you. So our goal today, hold on, I'm reading from the wrong script. It's all right, though, it's all good. Our goal today is to present the candidates with questions that will give them an opportunity to introduce themselves and their ideas, values, and positions. We will be here for approximately 2 hours. I will ask a total of 9 questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to questions 1 through 8 and 2 minutes to respond to question number 9. There are advantages and disadvantages to being the first to respond. We will draw names out of a hat for each question to see who goes first, and then proceed alphabetically. Each candidate will go first only once. Gail and Tony will be timing each response. One of them will hold up this sign when there's 30 seconds remaining, and then this one when the 1 minute is up, or 2 minutes in the case of the last one. Again, this will serve as an introduction to the candidates and to some of the topics of interest at Oceana. Having been introduced to the candidates in this forum, we hope you will follow up with the candidates individually or in smaller group settings to further explore their positions and to express your own ideas and concerns. Today's forum is not interactive. We request that everyone be respectful. There will be an opportunity for one-on-one time with the candidates at the informal Meet the Candidates event on Saturday, February 17th, that's day after tomorrow, at 1 p.m. here in the auditorium. There will be no moderator and no time limits for that event. Today's forum is being recorded, and a link to the videos will be sent in an email blast as soon as the videos are ready. Just a couple housekeeping issues. Turn off your phones, please, or silence them if you haven't already. And we have a couple of candidates healing from injuries and or other medical things. So Teresa she's kind of sitting off to the side because she has her, you can't see, but she has her foot up on a chair. She fell a couple days ago, poor thing. But she's fine, and so she's got her foot up. And then Sandy had surgery on her foot a few months ago, and she's still recovering from that. So she's got her foot up also. So that's why Sandy and John are switched alphabetically. But other than that, I think we're ready to go, and here we go. Question number 1. Question number 1. Each year, the board creates a strategic plan of specific, measurable, and attainable goals for the association and the community. If elected, what is one goal you would like to see included in the 2024 strategic plan? So again, each year the board creates a strategic plan of specific, measurable, and attainable goals for the association and the community. If elected, what is one goal you would like to see included in the 2024 strategic plan? And Ruth is handing out hard copies of the questions. Oh yeah, everybody please turn your mics on. You have to hold the little green button until, the little button until the black light turns on.
This one doesn't have buttons. So
It should be on. I turned it on before. It slides. Testing. There you go. Okay. So Lisa, does yours work? Okay. Everybody else should be. Val, can you draw a name, please, out of the hat? This is who will. Should be one, I think. Cindy Reiser. Okay, so thank you. Thank you, Beth. So Sandy's going first, and the clock will start when Sandy starts speaking.
Well, it was the last time, so it's appropriate that I'm first. I'm Sandy Reiser, and I think the one goal that I would like to complete next year would be the litigation with OLC. I think that's important for all of us, every single homeowner here. Legal stuff takes time, so I don't know if it'll be finished in the next year, but that would be a goal to try to complete that process so we have an answer. Because this land lease, it continues to strangle us as a community. With division and uncertainty, and I think we need to get rid of that here. I just want to say that the current board, at each step, evaluates whether we should go on. At each step, evaluates whether we should go on. And we have a big one coming up March 22nd, so it's really important we vote for the board. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. So now we'll come up to the rest of the alphabet, starting with Lisa Baggett.
Good morning. Yes, I love this topic. And the reason for that is that I did chair strategic planning, at which point we realized we had 2 strategic plans going on. We really only need one, and so it went back to the board. The part I was leading turned into the ad hoc water, which is what I believe is the most important concern for our committee. It's the number 2 item in our budget. It is something we can all have a part in controlling. Each of us uses water, and we all need to see that that water is used wisely. That includes changing out the grass for drought-tolerant native plants. I applied for a grant for water remediation. Sadly, we didn't get it in the last round, but I will continue to try and raise money for the conversion of the plants replacing the grass, which is hogging up all our water. And by the way, we're having a 17% increase in our water bill this year, so that's exactly the goal that I have, is to reduce our water usage by 17%. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Karen Bishop.
Hi, I'm Karen Bishop. I've been on the board for 2 years. This past board made a lot of progress on our strategic plan, mainly thanks to Sandy, who held us accountable every meeting where we had to give a report. The one thing we chose not to address in the 23-24 board were the bylaws. The bylaws are from 1997. They will soon be 30 years old. The laws have changed dramatically in Davis-Sterling. We need to investigate those bylaws, see what still works for our community and what doesn't. One example in the bylaw says that the HOA will provide security patrol for our community. We put that in the budget at a 0 amount. So if we can't do those things, then we need to take them out of the bylaws.
Thanks, Karen. Kelly Byrne.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming to the second candidates forum. I want to give a special thank you to the non-com and to, of course, Lee and Anita. So as you're going to hear a variety of strategic plans, whenever the board comes and makes a strategic plan, it's not just one item. But because the question says one item, I'm going to steal from what Karen just started and say, having a background of 25 years of law enforcement, our safety security is paramount here. It's not just about a patrol. It's about cameras, it's about lighting, but most importantly, it's about clear communication with our safety departments, such as Oceanside Police Department and Oceanside Fire. As a commissioner for the city with those 2 departments, that would be my main strategic goal, and I promise to see it through. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Teresa Chamberlain-Spradlin.
Hi, good morning, everyone. One of my goals has already been addressed in terms of the water, but I'll talk about repairs to our irrigation system and repairs to our infrastructure with regards to how we protect our stucco, and that's the painting of the units. So I'd like to see how we can incorporate a plan where we might rotate which sections have to be repaired in the dramatic order. There is an irrigation leak near my house, and it runs constantly like a little creek. And so that's why I'm emphasizing looking at how can we repair our items that waste our water, like the irrigation. And the landscaping, I also think that we really have to look at where we can put the native plants around. We ought to try converting more that way, and then see what we're going to do with the other landscape.
Thank you, Teresa. Kurt Conant.
Hi, thank you, and thank you for coming and taking time out of your busy day, and hello there to the folks on Zoom. And I want to make a motion that Ellen open up every board of directors meeting from now on, and that we also have an intermission in the middle for more of Ellen. Thank you very much. One thing, I think it's clear that we're all focused on water, and I think the other side of focusing on the water use is the zero-scape plan to transition areas where there's a lot of water being used and turning it into a drought-tolerant installation. The landscape company that we've hired, from what I've been told, is going to be focusing on that, and I think that that's a key strategic plan for us to save a lot of money very quickly, and it could almost pay for the landscaper himself. And if you want to know more about what I stand for, go to kurtconant.com.
Thank you, Kurt. Kathleen Dowling.
Hi there, good morning coffee hour people. It's early for me at 8, but okay. Okay, so everybody had great vision here. One thing I would really like to focus on is just the overall reserve planning and spending. As you all know, we have taken over $500,000 out of our reserves the last 2 years to fund the lawsuit. And so I think we need to really pay attention to what we're going to do with our reserve dollars that we do have. This year should be better, but I think we need to make sure that we're getting the big items done. And I think they should take priority over some of this litigation that goes on, especially regarding our insurance, our litigation on the operation side that go up, because we have 5 lawsuits. Okay, so, but that brings me back to, we've got to make sure we're spending our reserves correctly.
Thank you, Kathleen.
Thank you.
Peggy Moore.
Good morning, everybody. I ditto the concerns about the litigation, but I'd like to emphasize that the board of directors follow the advice of the attorneys and not take it just upon themselves to evaluate each month or each time whether we move forward. The majority of homeowners voted through a non-binding survey to move forward with litigation. And we do not have 5 lawsuits, but we have 2 being funded by Flat Lease Alliance, and we have to defend this community and bring the lawsuit with the land company into that. My main goal would be maintenance, to fine-tune these maintenance contracts and get them the repairs done properly.
Thank you, Peggy. John Vogt.
Good morning. My goal, number 1, is to find a successful conclusion to the issues with the Oceanside Land Company. Certainly, the dream would be that we get a definitive ruling from the courts. Alternate is that the land company is willing to negotiate something that would be favorable to our community. But until we get that over our heads, I think that the whole community is going to continue to be disturbed.
Okay, thank you, John. All right, next question. Tell us about your involvement at Oceana over the past several years, including community activities and volunteer service. Tell us about your involvement at Oceana over the past several years, including community activities and volunteer service. Okay, Chrissy, can I ask you to draw a name out of the hat, please? Kurt Conant goes first. Okay, and the clock will start, Kurt, when you start talking.
Involvement, okay. I'm 6 years here. The first volunteer opportunity that I had was with Romans. He's the man in the wood shop as a volunteer. I learned a lot in the time that I spent volunteering at the workshop. There's a lot of people that have something that's broken and you can bring it into the wood shop. We'll take a look at it and maybe help you fix it. Also, the dog park. I didn't have a dog. My wife and I, we gave up our dog and we moved in here because we didn't have a yard. So then we saw that there was a dog park here, and I said, you know, let's get a dog. So I've been kind of helping out, oversee the dog park. I do participate in a lot of the different committees. I'm the chair on the facilities committee currently, and I would encourage you to come and take a test drive on that if you'd like to become a member of that community or that committee. It would be great. And I'm looking to contribute time now on the board.
Thanks, Kurt. Kathleen Dowling.
Okay, well, I love all things landscape, so that's where I put my volunteer efforts over the year. I've been on the landscape committee off and on several times, and when I had a chance to become the chair of the landscape committee, I was so excited because I had all these ideas about, oh, we can make up this program and promote this program, the Aladdin, keep that going.
Kathleen, keep the mic close to your mouth.
Sorry, have an adopt-a-spot. And I remember Tane telling me way back when, it's so frustrating to be on the landscape committee. And after about a year or a little more, yes, it became very, very frustrating. It's a difficult place to be because it's so gray. Okay, but beyond that, I'm part of a group that has the Friendship Garden going now over here, and it's just total, it's an Aladdin project, and it's turning into a sage garden, and I encourage everybody to come and smell the sage. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Peggy Moore.
Well, I moved here in 2006 and was working 3 jobs until 2016. At which time I retired from UC System. And my involvement has primarily been since 2022, serving on the board of directors with both John and Kelly and Sandy. I ran for the board at that time because we had a history of 6 years of deficit spending, which was unsustainable. And we had management issues, homeowners being hung up on, homeowners not being responded to, and we couldn't get questions answered about the common area and the land lease. So I ran to resolve at that time some of those problems. And here I am again. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. John Vogt.
So my main community involvement was the 4.5 years I served on the board of directors, the last year as the president of the board. While I was on the board, I was co-chairman of the governing documents committee. We worked our way through the CC&Rs, the bylaws, the architectural agreement, the landscape agreement. I was also co-chairman of the land lease committee, which discovered that the landlord is responsible for replacement of infrastructure. Some of the other achievements connected with those committees is that we installed a limitation on how many units could be rented to try to keep this a residential community and not just a rental community. We gave considerable more freedom under the architectural guidelines for people to do their own work around their home. Under the landscape guidelines, considerable freedom for people to adopt a spot and do all kinds of landscaping changes around their home.
Thank you, John. Sandy Reiser. Did you turn your mic off? Don't do that.
You think I would know better. Okay, this is really hard, so I'm going to go really fast because I've been in the board for the past 2 years and I currently serve as the president of the board. I think one of the things I'm the most proud of is the creation of the hub because it created a center of communications for our community in print, digital, and website. I could talk a whole lot about that, but I'll go on. There's about 10 other things, so I'm just going to go quickly through them. The election process that's happening today is because of an initiative that Karen and I first did when we got on the board. We have a project going on rentals because we don't know how many rentals we have in this community and we need to know that. The bylaws that Kelly and Karen are doing are awesome. The common area modifications that are removable, reasonable, and low usage, Karen, I'm sure we'll talk about that. Compliance, valuations are actually being addressed. And as president, you're the liaison to the legal counsel, and so I've had a lot of involvement with that and making sure the board is always informed. And the last thing is that we've created the president's group, and so John and Kelly and I are currently on that, and all the ex-presidents as well.
Thank you, Sandy.
Ellen, hold on a
Yes.
second. Can I ask a favor? There's a lot of chit-chat going on, and it's very, very distracting for me when I'm trying to time. So if you could just hold down the chit-chat, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It's very stressful to be having, she can't even listen to what's being said because she has to watch the clock constantly. So, thanks, Gail. Where was I? Sandy, did you just finish?
I did.
Okay, Lisa Baggett.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll also go very quickly. I've been here 4 years. I first served on the architectural committee, which made most sense because I'm a real estate broker. We too, as John suggested, we reviewed our bylaws and our guidelines for our committee, and we are running very smoothly. We are firmly against encroaching into the common area in our committee, just so you guys know. I then evolved into the strategic planning, which then turned into the ad hoc water. I have 38 volunteers ready to serve, so I'm excited about that. I went to activities and started the dog days of summer, because I too got a dog, and it's been a really joyous thing. They're their own little sub-world down there in Dog Park and walking around our loop. I did apply for the grant for the water. That was $1 million grant. I intend on trying for more. I get most of my information from the pool and jacuzzi, just so you guys know. And I enjoy the garden club immensely, and I enjoy also serving as a worker on their activities, which have been fabulous.
Thank you, Lisa, that's your
Thank you.
time. Thank you. Karen Bishop.
Gordon and I moved into Oceana in 2015, and I enjoyed activities. I just wanted to have fun. And then the year 2021-22 came about. I attended 11 out of 12 board meetings, sat through the entire general session. During that time, I volunteered with an Aladdin project to become the forms lady, as it became known. And just 2 days ago, Tracy handed me another batch of forms to revise. Then I ran for the board, and the difficulty was working with self-management and realizing that the board actually were the managers, we were the employers, we needed to pay attention to California labor law. I average, much to Gordon's dismay, probably 30 hours a week of doing different projects and working on things. After equalization was passed, Gordon and I worked on creating a nonprofit to help homeowners in financial need. That got waylaid a little bit during Gordon's illness, but that nonprofit is now ready to get up and active again.
Thank you, Karen. Kelly Byrne.
Thank you for this question. So when I first moved here, I went to a safety committee meeting thinking, oh, this is a good way for a retired cop to get involved. And right away I was elected as chair. Not the goal. But as I continued on with that, I also became a member of the architectural committee. I also, as Lisa just said, I love to swim and got to know a lot of different people, especially during the COVID when you reserved time for swimming, the pickleball committees. And then someone said, why don't you run for the board? I had a moment of weakness and there I was. First as treasurer, which I got to know the finances and became part of a liaison to several of the committees, especially the finance committee. And then the next year elected to president, which you become a liaison to all the committees and you have to stay involved. 30 hours a week is probably a low figure on how many hours board members, and especially the president, spend as your board of directors. But thank you for coming, and that's my time.
Thanks, Kelly. Teresa Chamberlain Spradlin.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hold your mic right up close to your mouth.
Okay, now Tommy. Happen to be the chair of the Community Resource Center, and a couple years back when we did the equalization and the increases were coming for the flat lease alliance individuals, I was asked to be on the ad hoc committee, and my background with gerontology came in handy. So as the chair, I feel like we brought, working with wonderful volunteers, they have brought their background and stuff to help create our resource base. And that, if you haven't been to the CRC, come and see us. If you haven't been, oceanaseniors.org, you can click on the links and find us. We're going to we put on events. The vet fair was really successful. We have the flu shot event. We're going to time that better this year. In fact, we're looking for more input on what kind of events the residents would like to see. And we have topics like fraud and how to maneuver certain healthcare systems. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, next question. What board decision would you like to either enhance or rescind? What board decision would you like to enhance or rescind? And I didn't explain, but Ruth is handing out hard copies of the questions, so I don't have to keep repeating myself over and over. Okay, Nick, can I ask you to draw a name out of the hat, please? Let's see who's going first.
Kathleen.
Kathleen Dowling, thank you, Nick.
Okay.
Kathleen, you go first, and the clock starts when you start talking.
Okay, what board decision enhance or rescind? You know, there's been so many decisions, it's hard to keep up. I'm not really sure. I think there's several of them that probably need to be enhanced. Like I would be interested in working on the bylaws that they're talking about that I really hadn't heard about till now. So I would be interested in enhancing that. I think I could be helpful with that. I know there's been some policy being made. I talked to Karen about landscape, and I'd like to maybe get a little bit more involved in that as I come to know about it. But the policies and where they've gone, I'm not privy to because I'm not on the board. But those are two areas. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Peggy Moore.
I probably would look closely at the movement to make changes to common ground and use of inclusive patios and so forth until the homeowners vote whether or not to do that. The majority of vote is required to change the CC&Rs, and the board of directors does not have the authority to circumvent your governing documents. And there's a lot of controversy around that, but we are also in litigation with the land company. And until that is resolved, or when that is resolved, we'll have a lot of ability to make modifications and changes to the community. But they own the land right now.
Thank you, Peggy. John, vote.
I guess that's a real easy question for me to answer. I don't think anybody should be going on to the board of directors with any kind of an agenda. I would not have any idea because we're not privy to all the discussions and to all the reasons that different things have been enacted. So my answer is, right now I have nothing specific that I would either want to enhance or rescind, but would have to make the decisions as the questions come up.
Okay, John, thank you. Sandy Reiser.
So I want to talk about the common area modifications. So we listened to the homeowners. They were really clear. They wanted the ability to make the area around their home more useful if it's not used by other homeowners. Reasonable, removable, and low usage. Those are the bases. Not anyone can do anything, and the key to the policy is to enable the committees to approve it if it meets guidelines. The policy the board has put into place was done in July, and at the January meeting it was refined. We put an ad hoc together that's going to figure out how the policy can be implemented and communicated, including proposing where it belongs to consider an approval, an outline of how to explain to homeowners what it is and what could be approved, to identify any governing documents and guidelines that might need to be reviewed or clarified. We had written opinions by our legal counsel that this would not jeopardize our lease or the lawsuit in place. So that's the one I would work on.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Lisa Baggett, it's your turn.
Thank you. Yes, I definitely have an opinion on this one. Unlike John that wants to be neutral, I cannot be neutral on this, and that is the common area. No, no, and no. We're in a lawsuit. You don't go into infringing in common area in any way, shape, or form when you're in the lawsuit with the landlord who owns the land. He could make us take out all 50 years of improvements. Don't doubt that. It's possible. So for me, I want to make sure we have guidelines that are very clear, and not until this lawsuit is resolved one way or the other should we even be thinking about doing such a thing. There are common sense ways we can do this with guidelines. We went ahead, there was policies being made without forming any guidelines. They came to architecture and landscape and facilities and tried to go around our guidelines. We firmly are against this, all three of those committees, and I will continue to stand firm on that. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Karen Bishop.
If I am elected to the board again, I will continue to work on enhancing the policy that the board passed on modifications to the common area. Those that are around your home. When you step out your back door, to make sure you can be safe, it's attractive, and adds to your property value. I encourage you to go to my website, ocabishop@gmail.com. Email me. I will be glad to send you my common area modification statement. It's available outside in the lobby as well. We want to find ways to say yes to homeowners. It is in the CC&Rs, although they tell you it's not. Pull up your CC&Rs, look at section 2.10, granting use of the common area. The board alone may grant exclusive use of any portion of the common area without membership approval if it meets certain guidelines set by the civil code, which it does.
That's your time. Thanks, Karen. Kelly Byrne.
So we recently went from self-managed to property management company. And that transition is something that I would like to enhance with the communication between the community and the property management company. The board is responsible for that, but I remember the days when AppFolio was so easy to use, and now we have a new system called Connect. It's not that it doesn't work, it's just that the communication to the community, and even to some of us on the current board, are still working it out. So I'd like to enhance that communication. I don't know if resend is the word I would want to use, but if I had a crystal ball, I would go back to the days of equalization. And yes, I was on the board when it was put to a vote, and I remember that board with John and Peggy on it said, hey, we got to give this to the membership. That was a great idea. But looking at it now, I sincerely wish there would have been a way that we could have brought the community together and actually figured out a way that this could be a win-win for all and not be in the legal battles.
Thanks, Kelly. Teresa Chamberlain Spradlin.
Hi. I'd like to enhance the communication aspect of what the board started with simpler emails. Sandy referred to the one-liners. And with that transparency with communication, something that the residents feel like they understand what's going on and that they think that the board will represent them. So it's important to think about who you vote on the board, who's going to represent you. And I'd also like for us, if I'm elected to the board, to really look at some of the issues of infringing onto the leases that came with our property. And that might be, depending on what happens to the lawsuit, we're going to have to seriously look at how can we manage allowing residents to keep their leases intact and also balance what we need to do for repairs.
Thank you, Teresa. Kurt Conant.
Hot topic. Everybody's got to decide on this one. It's either yes or no. I'm a definite no. Imagine if you were one lot away from the beach and your lot has a lot in front of it and you know that it's been vacant for years and you've got all this sand in front of you. Somebody owns that property and you just decide to build a patio. You'd never do that. It would be crazy. When you move to a HOA, you made the decision to not develop the common area. That's not debatable. So if you want to build your stuff, sell your place and move. That's the solution to that issue. I think we need to bury this conversation back behind the barn until the lawsuit's done, because it could influence it. That's all I have to say.
That's your time. Thank you, Kurt. Okay, next question. The association will be starting with a new landscape company on March 1st. What are your expectations for our community's landscape? Again, the association will be starting with a new landscape company on March 1st. What are your expectations for our community's landscape? Fran, will you draw a name out of the hat, please?
Kelly Burr.
Okay, thank you. All right, Kelly, the clock will start ticking when you start talking.
Okay. Having this new landscapes company start March 1st is really a good thing. We had Brightview, who was a very huge company, and they did what they did. But the next company coming is more personalized. They're used to working in large, 140 acres type of land and looking at what the community needs. The owner of the company is, I think, a level 3 or 4 irrigation specialist, which has been mentioned, and I'm sure it's no secret that we do need help with our irrigation. So I look forward to this new landscape company coming in. I think we'll be pleasantly surprised how good they are, and I hope nothing for the best.
Thank you, Kelly. Teresa Chamberlain-Spradlin.
With the landscape, I'm hoping that they'll come in as experts and see the areas that are dying, like the grass or bushes or whatever, and offer suggestions, and going down to our nursery to see what wonderful plants we're growing that would not cost our association money for. So by using our resources, that they would also have an eye for the beauty on how to do that transition to low water plants. I also was thinking about how I'm a person with horrible allergies, and the bushes near my front door, constantly I'm asking for them to be hard pruned because of the blooms I'm allergic to. So I hope that other residents that have issues like that, the allergies with the plants, can see how we can accommodate what the resident can tolerate and also what would be beautiful for our community.
Thank you, Teresa. Kurt, comment.
Having owned a landscape company, the reuse of plants, mature plants and budding plants and these beautiful foxtail agaves that have all these little pups around the outside. When I moved here, my neighbor's 90 years old. She had a bunch of really large foxtail agaves. So I took them out, took them down to the garden, and they said, well, we're not going to be able to use them down here. And I said, well, can't the landscapers plant them somewhere? And they go, no, we don't do that. We need to do that. That's what we should be doing. That's what Teresa said nursery. That's what it was designed to be, a nursery. It turned into a garden club, but it was designed to be a place where we could propagate plants and not have to go out and buy them. Our new landscaper will embrace this, so I'm happy about that.
Okay, thank you, Kurt. Kathleen Dowland.
Okay, so the new landscape company, what expectations for our community's landscape. Okay, I'm going to talk about the difficulties we've had in the past with landscapers, not the jobs they've done, but the expectations. And I haven't seen this contract for this company that's coming in, but usually when a company comes in, they give a big presentation, and that's a nice spreadsheet, and they talk about all the things they're going to do, like they're going to fertilize the grass every 3 months, they're going to fertilize the flower beds every 4 months, they're going to dethatch once a year, and there's nobody ever there to follow up to see if they actually did that or hold them accountable. So there's a real disconnect between the landscape company and who's going to verify. We trust these people, right? But how do we verify the work that they're doing? And how that happens now is by complaint. But really, somebody needs to be following them with their contract to make sure that they're doing all that they're contracted for.
Thank you, Kathleen. Peggy Moore.
My first thought is that I would like to see the landscape contract in full, and I think homeowners need to have access to that. And that the management company and the board of directors hold the landscape company accountable. We can have umpteen committees, ad hoc committees, hours and hours of meetings around landscape. But if our maintenance and our management is not holding them accountable to the leaks, to the irrigation leaks, I reported on a spout over 100 feet tall, and it took over 2 hours for the emergency at 9 o'clock at night to respond. That's a lot of water loss. So all the committees we have discussing water loss, if our landscape company, management company, and board of directors do not address the root of the problem, literally, committee's works are a waste of time.
Thank you, Peggy. John, vote?
With every new landscape company, we're optimistic, and so I hope this one's going to work out well too. One of the things I hope they do is make better use of the money that the people we're paying for. Did we really need the lawn mowed this past week with the mower and the guy who came along with the weed whacker and then the guy who came along with the air blower? That was 3 men who could have put, 24 hours of time cutting some of the bushes. So I hope that the new landscape company makes better use of the men. And I also hope that they'll work with the homeowners. I find myself in probably total disagreement from what I just heard from Lisa and Kurt. I think we should be encouraging our homeowners to make improvements around their home, and the landscaper can make suggestions. But the homeowners should be able to get their hands dirty and go out there and pull some weeds, plant a few plants, and we should be giving our people more freedom to enjoy their homes.
Thank you, John. Sandy Reiser.
Well, I could talk about this one because I just signed the contract last Friday. And if any homeowner wants a copy of it, all you have to do is ask management for that. The terms of the contract, that ad hoc that did this, Ellen, Roxanne, several people are here that did this, that did Peter, they did a great job with this. It was very thorough. They analyzed a whole bunch of vendors, and they came to the one that I think is going to work. They came in under the budget, which is really good because we needed the money to pay for our increase in insurance and didn't have to raise your assessment on that one. The job of First Service is to hold that company accountable to the contract. They are here for that, and the board needs to hold First Service accountable. The great thing about this contract is it includes a lot of irrigation, water usage, using our nursery, which is not our garden club, it's near it, and also to include the slopes, which Brightview never did. Once a month, do a walkthrough with management using goals they set the month before and reported to the board monthly. We're really hopeful about this.
Thank you, Sandy. Lisa Baggett.
Thank you. Yes, I want this to be 100% homeowner driven. I was on the bid review committee for this landscape contract. We went through very detailed questions with every one of the bidders. We all maintained a grid of our responses and our weighting of the answers. Those were later tabulated, blind to each of us. When we came to find out, we all voted unanimously for this new contract. They were not the lowest bidder, just so you know. That's okay, because I believe they will carry out what we're asking them to do, which is to use the drought-tolerant plants in our nursery. They've agreed to do that. They will work with us on the water remediation and the applying for rebates and replacing grass. And that is to be driven by homeowner request, not from the vendor top down. This needs to be handled by us. We are the people who enjoy it. We are the people who pay for it. And so I believe we can do that with this company. The owner will be hands-on and on-site. That will hopefully help hold them accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Karen Bishop.
I have full faith in the decision that the committee made. I know that they analyzed the vendors very carefully, created a rubric to determine what they actually would provide. The two things that I'm encouraged about is the no longer using poison as the weed control throughout our community, thanks to those who fought for that idea. And the other one is to have an irrigation specialist available on the landscape committee. There's 3 parts to landscaping in this community. The landscape contractor is just part of it. We have a landscape committee, and our budget only gives them $15,000 for all your homeowner requests, which is ridiculously low. And the other part we have are trees. So all this together helps beautify our community. We have limited financial resources. We want to encourage homeowners to be able to participate in the improvement and the looks and the safety of our community.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, next question. How should unexpected/unbudgeted HOA expenses be paid for? How should unexpected/unbudgeted HOA expenses be paid for? Okay, let's draw a name out of the hat, please, if you wouldn't mind. Can you draw a name out? Thank you. And can you open it? It looks like you have two there. Just grab one.
Teresa.
Thank you very much. Okay. Teresa Chamberlain Spradlin, clock starts when you start talking.
I assume that unexpected and unbudgeted are emergencies. And from what I have read, and I could be wrong, but I could be right, that's where I think we have the ability to reach into our reserve fund on a certain limit for emergency repairs. And I guess the other hard part would be moving around the budget money, like when there was the fault short, the unexpected amount that was found we had to make up for. The landscape budget was slashed as part of the way to make up that extra money. It's not an easy thing to look at, but with emergencies, we have to think about how it's going to affect something else down the line. So researching into where there's any wiggle room would be my first thing to look at. The next thing is to look at our bylaws and guidelines regarding the emergency fund, the reserve fund.
Okay, thank you, Teresa. Kurt Conant?
I don't know exactly how to answer this. I know when I know that I don't know, and this is one of those situations. I leave finance to people who are experts in finance and able to project future needs and anticipate what the emergency funds should be. I know we've pulled out of reserve funds in the past. I'd like to see an opportunity of cutting costs in order to avoid something like this. The fact that landscape has such a small budget is unfortunate, but it is what it is. We're working in a time when expenses are going up, and we need to look at the ways that we can look to control costs, I think, would be a focus. I also want to second what was said earlier about the poison, not using Roundup anymore. It's going to be an animal-safe product that he's going to be using in order to help with the abatement of the weeds. Thanks.
Thanks, Kurt. Kathleen Dowling?
Okay, yeah, I'm out in the weeds on this one too. I think that this really calls for a team approach, consultation with finance or management company, everybody who's a stakeholder in whatever it is, and a group decision has to be made. I know we can all see the effects of some decisions that have been made, like the loss of some landscape services last year that had to be cut, which caused a lot of turmoil. So I would just really rely on a team for that and consultation. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Peggy Moore?
This is a tough one for candidates to answer. Budgets, I've worked 40 years in budget management, and budgets can be flexible. Emergency funds, we have reserves set aside for emergencies, so it really depends on what the expense is. If it's an unexpected reserve item, then it comes out of reserves. However, we've got to build up our reserves in order to keep unexpected problems at bay. Operating is a little tougher because at times only the president and the treasurer or various board members have a say in, how much can be spent on unexpected items. We saw that this year when we had to have interim staff in the office. And it has to be scrutinized carefully line by line. That's the best way to go about it, as a board of 7 members.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. John Vogt?
Just like in your own personal budget. If something unexpected comes up, you just have to look around and find where in the world can we get the money for it. If that means we have to take something from someplace else, if maybe we have to defer something that we were planning to do, you just have to find the money. You know, a budget is a plan, a goal. In all reality, it's a hope. It's the hope that we can do it with these amounts. Every year, some things don't cost quite as much, and you don't have to feel compelled to spend the money, but other things are going to go over the budget. That's just, you just have to use common sense, and obviously any kind of a special assessment is the last option that you would want.
Thank you, John. Sandy Reiser?
So the team is the board and management, and that's how we make our decisions on how we're going to spend our money. If you've watched the board for the past year, we do exactly that. Every item, where's the money going to come from? We drive Lynn crazy. But that is how we do it. And we have to reduce something to do that. We only have 9% held in reserves. We do not have enough money for lots of these major things. So we have to find the money somewhere. The assessment was not as big as it should have been to cover that, so we have some risk that this could happen. But we're hopeful that we can get that with what we've got. And I know that Lynn, Finance, and the board all look at where we are all the time to make sure that we are going to have enough, as Lynn always says, to get to December.
Okay, thank you, Sandy. Lisa Baggett?
Thank you again. Yes, on the unbudgeted, unexpected reserve items. Yeah, that is a really hard question for us that haven't really been on the board to see those specific line items. But what I do know is we've had a few cases where we need to learn from our mistakes. One of those would have been taking the money from our reserves to pay for a $500,000 solar project. That is unconscionable. That cannot happen. I will watch like a hawk on the reserves, that I can assure you. So mainly learning from the past mistake. We can also fundraise to a limit due to us being a nonprofit. And so if we have specific things that we could go and raise some money for or go and get money from donors, that would be fabulous. And I believe that can happen. We can, of course, move money around in our budget. That's always dangerous to do, taking from Peter to Rob Paul. That kind of thing can be dangerous. But in an emergency, it is necessary. And so those hard decisions have to be made. And I know this prior board, that is one thing I will say and commend them on, is how they did that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Karen Bishop?
Every homeowner received the annual budget November of 2023. On the back of it is a list of the projects that were approved for the reserves to spend. The committee that worked on the budget were very diligent, didn't spend any extra money. If there is an emergency, you just heard Sandy give you an example. They didn't anticipate that the insurance increase would be quite as much as it was, but they identified areas in the landscaping budget that could be moved that way. Sandy and Lynn have kept this board and the management very accountable. Anytime there was an expenditure that was not in the budget, the question was, what GL is it coming from? Where are you getting the money?
Thank you, Karen. Kelly Byrne?
The board is fiscally responsible for the budget. There should not be unexpected HOA expenses. Why? Because the board budgets for unexpected expenses. If you want to call it a rainy day fund, that's great. Remember, reserves are an account just for replacements. Your operating account is your day-to-day. And the board looks at all this. And you do, as a homeowner, get a copy of the annual budget. And part of the things that you can look at is how money is being spent. And where is the money coming from and where is the money going? We can't always expect everything, but at the same time, it's up to the board to be ready for those unexpected expenses, and it's not going to be unbudgeted.
Thank you, Kelly. Okay, next question. What are your thoughts about the current status of the reserve fund, and what are your recommendations for the future? What are your thoughts about the current status of the reserve fund, and what are your recommendations for the future? Would you mind Lisa Baggett. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. You can start.
Ay, ay, ay. Oh, I don't know all the details of the reserve budget, but for the future, I like to leverage vendors and push them out on payments. We're the boss of them, they are not the boss of us, it's our money. A lot can be done by leveraging vendors. You'd be surprised. You can delay payments, you can have payment structures. I believe we did some of that with the legal, so that our cash flow can remain healthy without driving us into bankruptcy. We don't ever want to do that. The other thing that on the reserve fund, I think we all need to learn more about the difference between reserve and operating expenses. This is it's very technical, it's an accounting situation. It's not something all of us come out of the gate and understanding this stuff. But it can be explained in layman's terms so we can all understand it and make our best decision. I do believe Lynn was very helpful in doing just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Karen Bishop?
The reserve fund is not enough. We need to build it. We've had board members who believed that we shouldn't have any reserves. Just pay for it when it comes up. And that's totally unrealistic. The one thing is to make the Oceanside Land Company pay for the replacement costs that we have. So we're not taking it out of our homeowner budget to improve property that they're going to get back and increase their equity while we all suffer.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Karen. Wow. Kelly Byrne.
Okay, thoughts about the current status of the reserve fund? It'd be great if we could have more money in it, but the truth of the matter is that the reserve status is funded at a rate that is kind of pretty common for a community our age. Now, true, once the lawsuit is completed, we may be able to rebuild that reserve fund right away. But at the same time, what we're looking at is an infrastructure of a community that is kind of growing and needing changes at a rate that the reserve fund cannot keep up with. And some of that is just due to current reflections. So fundraising is a great idea. Looking at the numbers, and every board, like I said previously, is fiscally responsible for making sure that all the expenses are covered. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Teresa Chamberlain Spradlin.
I think about the, I hope this is the correct title, the reserve study about our infrastructure that has been done every so many years. And on that study, it talks about the lifespan of certain items like the streets and the irrigation, etc. So I would like us to look at the experts that we paid to give us that study. How can we manage putting into the budget what needs to be repaired and providing better communication with the residents, such as painting of a unit might be $500,000, but if we don't have the correct product to allow the stucco to the integrity stay there, we might have to repaint sooner than what we can afford to. If for recommendations in the future, that would be part of my plan, that we look at how fast we need to build those reserves.
Thank you, Teresa. Kurt Conant.
What are our thoughts about the current status of the reserve fund? Sandy said it's not enough. We didn't increase it enough. I don't know what enough is. I'm not close enough to the numbers to understand that. As a board member, I'd be much more interested in how the money's being collected and how it's being discerned to be spent. Everybody wants a rainy day fund, and as we all know, the best laid plan is much better than hope. So all we can do is put the right people around the table and make the decisions on what we're going to spend the money on. I can tell you this is where a stitch in time saves nine is an important concept. This deferred maintenance, something that costs $10,000 today is going to cost $20,000. Streets are a really good example of that. I mean, you can throw some asphalt, hole, and I'm out of time.
Thank you, Kurt. Kathleen Dowling?
Okay, I agree with Kurt. And the reserve funds. My thoughts about it is, yeah, we spent a lot of money out of our last 2 years' reserves for legal, and so there's some suffering going on about that. We have roads that are needing a lot of repair, especially in the lower side of the complex. And if we don't fix those, the cost to fix them in the future goes up exponentially. And so it just doesn't make sense. I don't want to see things delayed, much needed fixes delayed, because we hope to win a lawsuit that may happen or not 5 years from now, or 3 years from now, or 2 years from now. It costs more to spend less sometimes, and I don't want to see us go there. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. Peggy Moore?
Our reserves is seriously underfunded. So we've got to build it up. When I got on the board the first time, I couldn't get questions before I got on the board. How are we covering 6 years of deficit? And in meeting with the portfolio manager as a new board member, he explained it very simply. They drew out of the reserves to cover the deficit. So that depleted our reserves. So we've got to build it back up. And I wasn't in the room when those decisions were made, so I don't know what was behind them. My biggest thought is maintenance. We spend reserve funds to repair over 500 garages and roofs. If those repairs are not done properly, it's a waste of our reserve money. We've got to hold our maintenance and our vendors accountable and not waste homeowners' reserve funds.
Thank you, Peggy. John Vogt?
As an outsider the last couple of years, I really don't know the issues specifically. Certainly, we can always try to have our reserve funds better. But remember, the reserve funds basically, to get 100% coverage in your reserve fund means that you've got in the bank all the anticipated expenses for the next 20-some years. I don't know about you, but my budget doesn't operate that way. Some things have to be covered when the time comes, and there's a lot of sense in taking care of things while they're small things rather than waiting in another 5 or 10 years when they're going to cost us 2 or 3 times as much.
Okay, thank you, John. Sandy Reiser?
Yep, so if you want the details, the budget everybody received in the annual budget, including the reserve study, if you want to dig further, we can do that for you. We are grossly underfunded. We're at 9%. The sterling number is 70%. We'd all be happy for 30%. But we can't do that because people didn't want to pay that much in assessment. That's where we are. Vendors are managed by management. And so we create the contract and the terms, but management, that's why we brought in a management company, is there to make sure to hold them accountable. The board's job is to oversee their doing that. Again, what Kathleen said is a really good point. $250,000 of our reserves came from legal last year, and that's why this year we did a one-time assessment at $360 per home, so that we had that $250,000 sitting in reserves that we can use for that maintenance that continues to be deferred.
Thanks. Okay, thank you, Sandy. Okay, next question. Currently, there is in place a process for homeowners to make requests for repairs or maintenance. How do you think that process is working? So currently, there is in place a process for homeowners to make requests for repairs or maintenance. How do you think that process is working? Okay, let's draw a name. Donna, would you mind drawing a name?
Peggy Moore.
Okay, Peggy Moore.
Well, I can say as a homeowner, I've been pleased with first service response. And I don't know about other homeowners. I've gotten calls with concerns, but as far as I know, that the response is going well. I think that their corporate staff probably tracks these and makes sure that our staffing, or their staffing now, are responding to homeowners politely and expeditially, is that the right word? And respectfully.
Okay, thank you, Peggy. John Boat?
My impression is that things are not going particularly well, that with the instability that we've had, general managers in and out, never even have a chance to learn the job, staff being changed. You realize there's only one person in the office staff that was there 2 years ago. And we're now getting our 4th general manager in the last 3 years. I mean, how can things run smoothly when people don't have a chance to learn their job? In the past, we would get notices. I put a request in about a month ago and I didn't even get a notice acknowledging that they got it. So I've heard complaints, and hopefully we'll do better as we get a manager in who gets to know the job and staff that becomes stabilized.
Thank you, John. Sandy Reiser?
Well, I think it worked terrible before, and it worked terrible again. So it worked terrible under Appfolio for various reasons, and it worked at the beginning of FirstService with Connect. Straight out, it just worked terrible. But FirstService does have the tools and the metrics that help communicate this part of our process. The original implementation was done lousy. But since then, a lot of things have happened. So these are the changes that have been made working with management since the beginning of the year. In January, our team was trained. They were not trained properly on the tool in Connect. So now they've been trained. There are weekly meetings with our facilities management team to make sure that they're moving forward and those work orders are getting done. The board reviews those metrics on a monthly basis now. In February, there's going to be homeowner training so you can learn how to use the system and track work orders and see where it's at. And there's also the training of the facilities committee now that is going to utilize that system the way it was intended. I have one other comment, but I can't think. Oh, about the general manager, you have a community management company so you can make that change easily. Not easily, better.
Okay, thank you, Sandy.
Sorry.
Lisa Baggett?
Thank you. Repairs and maintenance, yeah. I've had a terrible experience with this across the board, and that has to do with the repairs of my homeowner-owned garage. And I've had 7 leaks. They don't respond. When they do respond, it's with this incompetent company that the board chose to put in place again. This is the same company that knew nothing about painting that's painting your homes. No, this cannot go on. We need people that are qualified to do the maintenance and repairs. This is not rocket science. Come on, people. Let's get qualified people. The other thing is we've got some people that are running these departments that are a clear case of the Peter principle. If you don't know what that is, that's when a person is promoted one level past their level of competence. Yes, we had good intentions promoting within, but when you have a terrible outcome, you should not continue with these people. I don't know how much more I can say about this. This whole process needs to be relooked at completely, and along with whoever the new office manager is. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Karen Bishop?
Question, how do you think this process is working? It's not working well enough. One of the things I ran on 2 years ago was holding the HOA accountable for the work that they had to provide to the homeowners. We need to have the response time. We're asking for that. For the very first time, our February board packet will have a list of the work orders. It's the very first time that we've actually been able to see this, and it will report how many orders are open and what the status is. So that's a step in the right direction. One of the things we hope that FirstService Residential will do is they have a system to vet the vendors, which we have not had yet. We've been relying on recommendations. So if there is a contractor, they have had experience throughout all of San Diego County with the vendors that we could possibly use.
Thank you, Karen. Kelly Byrne?
So we did have a system that worked. Appfolio was a very workable and user-friendly system. That system is now gone bye-bye. We have a new property management company that has a system in place that is new. So with that new use, eventually it will be user-friendly and we will get used to it. But here's the nice thing. Let's say you don't believe in cell phones or computers, or you just don't want to deal with it. You can walk to the office during when the office is open and they will fill out that work request for you. Mind you, work requests are not on homeowner-owned items. They are on common area and things that are owned by the HOA. If you own your own roof, get it fixed. But at the same time, and probably go through an architectural request, by the way, but at the same time, if it's not homeowner-owned and it does go to the common area, you can walk in and talk to our friendly HOA staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Teresa Chamberlain-Spradlin.
When I moved here in 2011, I thought the maintenance work orders was a joke because couldn't track them, whatever. But fast forward to when we started the computerized system where you could go online and do your maintenance form, and then they would respond with saying that we worked on it. At least that gave an opportunity to go out and see what was going on with the common ground area request. But I think I'd like to see improvement in customer service. When we had all that rain and the water around the houses, and I know about one sub pump that wasn't working properly. So the response time has improved. Someone comes out and looks at it, but then they're either told that on the spot, like, no, it's your business, not ours, without doing some investigation, because sometimes the issue that a homeowner's calling about is the HOA's responsibility. And I think that the customer service is getting back to the homeowner with what they found in their investigation of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Kurt, comment?
It's terrible. And just because you can submit a work order doesn't mean that anything's going to happen. As long as I've been here, and I pride myself in being available. You can call me anytime, 760-331-9311. If I can help, I'll do what I can to help. Navigating the system is not easy for some seniors. The unit advisors I know help our residents fill out work requests. I filled out a work request in September to have my bushes trimmed, and they got trimmed last week. So just because you have a system doesn't mean that the work's actually going to be completed. The feedback loop for the resident should be closed. Right now it's open. There's no, we got it, we're working on it. It's what I would call who does what by when. There's never a when. There's only a who and what.
Thank you, Kurt. Kathleen Dowling?
Okay, I think the process that's in place right now is at best fair. We've had good luck working with both maintenance and the landscape vendor. However, what we've learned is you have to stay on top of it. And I tell my neighbors that if you need to put in the work order, you take it to the office and you have them stamp the date on it and make you a copy. And then you have to follow up on that. That's just the way it is. We're short-staffed or short-funded or whatever, but it's your responsibility to follow up. The sharing the metrics thing, in the past, at board meetings, when we had another manager, we used to hear every month, we had so many landscape requests this month, we took care of 40 of them, we have 10 pending. Same thing for maintenance, and I think that needs to come back. So we all have an idea and where we're at. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. Okay, question number 8. Regarding the litigation with the Oceanside Land Company, do you have an opinion on if and when we should exit from our lawsuit against the OLC? And if so, how might that be done? So again, regarding the litigation with the Oceanside Land Company, do you have an opinion on if and when we should exit from our lawsuit against the OLC? And if so, how might that be done? Okay, this is the last time we're going to have to draw a name. Charlie, would you mind, please?
John Vogt.
Okay, John Vogt.
Very simply, we should continue to pursue every legal means as long as there's a chance of success. So stay the course, listen to the best legal advice, but as long as there's a chance of success, stay with it.
Okay, thank you, John. Sandy Reiser.
So I think we really need to find a way to deal with this land lease. I think we all agree, as I talked about earlier, because it continues to strangle us as a community. Each and every step that happens along legal action is evaluated by the current board. As of this moment, we've chosen to continue through our legal action. This is the kind of board I would think that the homeowners would want. I think all of us agree that this is the original sin of our community, and ignoring it just continues to let the sin own us. I'm not willing to do that at this juncture. I am not a we continue the litigation at any cost board member, but where it makes sense, I think we move forward. You cannot, as a board member, assume we will win, and you need to make decisions accordingly. You want a board member who will evaluate at every step of the process and is not married to one way or another, but views it with an open mind. There is a big step coming on March 22nd, and you want the right people in place to make that decision.
Thank you, Sandy. Lisa Baggett.
Thank you. Yes, I concur with exactly what John said. I support going through this thing to the end, whatever it is, because we probably aren't going to have another shot at doing this in our lifetimes. If you recall, the last time was 40 years ago. So I don't think there's too many of us that are going to live another 40 years here. Anyway, it's a difficult thing when there's a lot of money at stake. I think the board did work out a payment plan with our legal so that we could have a cash flow situation, so you're not paying up front for something you're not using yet. You're paying as you go. That makes sense to me. I don't know any more of the specifics in that because that's done behind, I believe, closed doors. But yes, I think we have good legal representation. I would encourage us to go forward. And I do believe they're representing all of us to be reduced to $15 a month. All of us. There's misinformation going around about that. But legally, we are asking that all of us be reduced to $15 a month on our land lease. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Karen Bishop.
I've attended the 2 court cases that have been held so far. And I will tell you, after the second one, when we were the last case in that courtroom, the judge looked at us and thanked the 6 of us who were there for coming and caring. This judge is open to understanding the situation we're in as retired people on fixed incomes and having a company ready to gouge us for another 40 years. If you think it's expensive now, wait till they do the next CPI of 25% on us. And it'll keep going and going. Lisa's right, now is the time. If it doesn't happen now, we won't be able to afford to live here. And how we would get out of it, when the court and the judge says, you don't have a case, go home, that's when we go home.
Thank you, Karen. Kelly Byrne.
Okay, so I've been involved with this since the beginning, not with the committee at the beginning, but since the mediation that began all this. It's important because the board does have a lot of evaluating to do with looking at where the court case is. March 22nd will be important because it will be a decision that will be made that will need to be looked at. Yes, we have a great legal team and we need to listen to them, but we also need to listen to the community. I heard someone say that our legal team represents all 932. That is the truth. We are hoping for victory for all 932, and that's the important thing to follow through on and make sure that the people who are elected on this board do what is right for all 932.
Thanks, Kelly. Teresa Chamberlain Spradlin.
I am a firm believer that each step of the way will give us more knowledge, and then the board will decide. Hopefully, you'll trust the board to decide what's best for the whole community. I do think that we need to think about, can we settle? Can we get something, if not all? I don't think we can get all, but let's get something. And that might be a settlement after we find out how favorable the judge is to some of our points. Now, it is expensive. And so that'll be a hard decision to do. For example, I know, I'm glad to hear Sandy was saying that you all look at each part of the legal as it comes up. But it might be a hard decision to decide, do we spend another $500,000 to not get much or to have it totally dropped. I'm not sure if it'll be favorable if we go to a jury trial. And so that's my perspective, not to throw away good money after bad.
Thank you, Teresa. Kurt Conant.
I feel a little bit like the train's left the station on this one, and we have made a commitment to a path to compromise. Court and legal systems and judges are places where people go who can't compromise. Plain and simple. They want the big number, we want the little number. It's going to be somewhere in between. And it's going to be a long and winding road to get there. What they've said up to this point to us on our requests is no. You continue to pay us, what's the number, $70,000 a month? Ay, ay, ay. They've had that luxury of that multi-million dollars just coming in every single month. I mean, I want to be in that family. They're probably going to compromise. They're probably going to come to the table with a number. And we have to trust our lawyers to be in our best interest, all 932.
Thank you, Kurt. Kathleen Dowland.
Okay, so the question is, do I have an opinion on when we should exit from the lawsuit? Okay, and how that might be done. Well, as far as I know, we're funded from the special assessment through the end of the year, so I think we need to go forward and see what happens. By the time the next budget planning rolls around, that's probably going to be time when we have to make another decision. How are we going to fund this for the next year if we're still in it to win it? At that point, I would vote for continuing this on with a special assessment, but I think all 932 should have a vote in that. And we should not go low, but we should go with what people are willing to pay, which for me, you know, if everybody's in, I'll spend $1,000, but I want consensus, not just 7 people who decide for the rest of us.
Okay, thank you, Kathleen. Peggy Moore?
Well, I've been in the room from the very beginning with the Land Lease Committee and the goal to resolve this issue. And I'm not of the sound mind to that we spend whatever it takes. However, we're just getting started. This party is just getting started. And it's exciting. I'm excited to put this before the courts. And we have to have confidence in our attorneys, and we have to have confidence in our homeowners, confidence in our board, that they will represent us and not make rash, quick decisions. I've been in the room where the minds have changed weekly, monthly. It's not a fun party in those rooms because it's stressful. We either commit or we get off the pot. And I'm committed to see this through.
Thank you,
I didn't
Peggy.
mean pot like that pot. Kathleen.
Thank you, Peggy. Okay, this is your last question. And so you get 2 minutes to answer this one. So the 30-second clock will come up when you have 30 seconds left, okay? The question is this. This election is for a 2-year term. If you are elected to serve our community, how would you like to complete this statement? After serving the community for 2 years, I am most proud of fill in the blank. So if you are elected to serve our community, how would you like to complete this statement? After serving the community for 2 years, I am most proud of fill in the blank. And there's only one name left in the hat, and it is Karen Bishop. You get to go first.
I am most proud of making difficult decisions with integrity after doing the research and getting the information that I need. I'm looking forward to supporting Lynn, Roxanne, and Evelyn, excellent board members who are continuing on for their 2nd year. They need people who will work cooperatively with them and continue some of the good work that we've started. My candidate statements and information, what I stand for, they're available outside in the lobby, they're available in my candidate statement, and you can email me at this address, to get more. Plus, come on Saturday to find out more. If you think being a board member is glamorous, think again. We put in a lot of work, and Kathleen brought it up. You need to put things up to a vote. Read the bylaws. There are 22 duties listed in the bylaws that the board of directors have to do. Don't put things up for a vote because today or this week, whenever you submit your ballot, that is when you vote. Vote for candidates that support you, want to improve our community, will provide the backup we need, work with the board, committees who will implement the policy set by the board. That's who you need. You don't have to vote for 4 candidates. You can vote for 1, 2, 3, or 4. You choose the people that you think will work with Roxanne, Lynn, and Evelyn in the next 2 years. I'd like for you to re-elect me. If you want to keep the current situation of modifications and working to improve our community, vote for me. If you want to keep the current status where people are saying, no, you absolutely cannot do anything because there might be this lawsuit or whatever. So just anticipate what the next 25 years look like when you look out your back door and see if you can use your home to the best of its ability, enjoy it, and be safe.
Thank you, Karen. Kelly Byrne.
I have served for 2 years. I've served for 2.5 years. I hate to say it, but I believe that there are people sitting right here at these tables who will not complete a 2-year term because that has happened in the past. But that's up to you to decide as a voter. What I'm most proud of accomplishing in the past couple of years are things that I would hope to continue to improve upon. The fob system, security, the budget, working with a property management company to make it easy and simple free and people understand the system that they are putting in front of us. Karen made an excellent point. We have 3 incumbents that are willing and able and perfectly capable of being on this board and seeing it to a successful next 2 years. But the next candidates need to work as a team with those 3 incumbents. They can't come on and just say, change this, change that, because here's the thing. The board is governed by a California civil code known as Davis-Sterling. And we have to work within those codes. And it takes a new board member a while to learn that and to get into the habit of understanding all those rules and regulations. It's not that you can't, but it does take a while. Those of us who have been on boards previously understand that. Going forward, I think we can hope for a nice Oceana community where we all came to retire, enjoy our pools, our pickleball courts, the wood shops, the art, and that would be my hope for the next 2 years. I don't think we need more change. I think we need to take what we have, settle into it, and just make it so the entire community is happy for it. Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly. Teresa Chamberlain Spradlin.
Hi, after serving for 2 years, I think I'd be most proud of having a resident-friendly environment where if there's an issue, they feel comfortable in bringing it to the board and maybe bring a solution. I think the other thing is I'd like to make sure that our property values stay up there. And by doing that, I think that we need to look at what's realistic repairs to keep the integrity of the community looking good and desirable. If we have, the road in front of where I live is a continuation of D Street, and it's so crumbled that I'm afraid that pipes underneath the road might break because the asphalt's going to fail. So I don't want to look like going to a ghetto because everything's fallen apart. And I guess I would be proud if we're able to do the planning and a timing planning that we can have a basis to go forward on with what resources we have. And I think that some fresh ideas on the board, along with seasoned board members that are also running, would be a good mix. And I guess I like to think that in running for the board, I often joke that if something comes up and I can't handle it, I might have to quit. Well, no, I'm not a quitter. So you'd be stuck with me for 2 years. Thank you. Oh wait, I get 30 seconds. I have not been the most elegant speaker these last 2 forums, but I have to let you know that I am a hard worker. I have a huge integrity, and when I commit to something, you get 100% or 3,000% of me. And if I don't understand something, I'll ask a question. Oh, that's interesting, or why is it that way? Or I don't like taking no for an answer if I think there's a solution.
Thank you, Teresa. Kurt Conant.
I just want to say I appreciate the opportunity. Many have encouraged me to run for the board over the last several years, and I have now found the time to be able to do so. I'd like to say after serving the community for 2 years, I'm most proud of the change that we made in the way that we're spending our money and the cost savings that we have. Number one cost savings is definitely the landscape. The other process that I can say that we will be able to implement in the 2 years is we're going to streamline. We're going to streamline a lot of different processes here. There's a lot of antiquated forms, there's paper. At my facilities committee meeting, we don't bring agendas all pre-printed. We don't have all these, we do it on a video screen, and all of our documents are up in a folder up in the cloud. So anybody who wants to have any information about anything, ask me and I'll give you access to the folder. Everything is transparent. The who does what by when is a really good way to run a business. That way there's 100% accountability at all levels, and that I haven't seen here. So at the end of the 2 years that we have a system in place where vendors are held to be accountable by management, that information, as we've all asked for, it's out there. It's out there to be found, it's out there to be seen, and it's reported as good news. We take ourselves pretty seriously here, and I think we need to lighten up a bit. The change to running things by computers and using apps and that sort of a thing, I hear this over and over again, but Kurt, you don't understand. You don't understand. I understand that every day more people with technology move here, and we need to embrace that.
Thank you, Kurt. Kathleen Dowling.
Okay, after 2 years, I would be most proud if most of the lawsuits are settled and everybody gets along. That's what I would be most proud of. In the meantime, how I want to help people if elected is I want to clarify the current financial challenges that affect us all. I don't think the community is anywhere near, people in this room are aware of what they are, but not everybody in the community is aware of what the challenges are. I'd like to help the community understand why we have financial challenges, and I have several ideas to address that. I'd like to include the community in decision making because I feel that an informed homeowner can guide the board to meet the challenges that affect us all. I'd like to encourage homeowner participation in community affairs. One way to do that is to reduce the time it takes to have a board meeting, like to 2 hours. I think that we can increase volunteer satisfaction, although I think it's probably already at a high level. And I think we should celebrate our volunteers more frequently and inspire others to volunteer. Another one of my major goals is to let management do their job. And I have a lot of ideas for that. Okay. And as fiduciaries, I want to protect our home values. And that means maintaining the common ground through sound fiscal management in our best interest. And we have a lot of opportunities in that basket. And working together, I think we can get there. So, yeah, I'm all in. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathleen. Peggy Moore.
I'd be most proud of relationships. Typically, HOA boards are a beast. It's clashing of opinions, it's disagreements, it's the art of consultation, putting a topic on the table and not being attached to it. That's tough. It's tough to do. We've all been there. Right, Anita? But in the end, we're neighbors. And we're all in this to make this community better. We're not adversaries. I resigned from the board when it became adversarial, when it became attacking and bullying, when I saw a risk of circumventing CC&Rs and what neighbors and homeowners needed. Now, I fulfilled a full 2-year term, so my second half of that last year was completely as a volunteer, so to speak, to fulfill the role of someone who got ill. And I'd like to see the board get out of the way. Get out of the way and let management manage. That's what we hired them for. Get out of the way and let their accounting team put together our numbers. I'd like to see the board get out of the way of the committees. These are volunteers, not employees. They're not to be treated like employees. Get out of the way of the volunteers that dedicate their time to serve this community. And have fun. We're all in retirement years, and it hasn't been a fun few years for me. And I only retired in 2016. So I'm in this to make a big difference.
Thank you, Peggy. John Vogt.
After 2 years, I think I'd be most proud of seeing progress on the 3 goals that I've identified. Seeing greater stability and trust within our community. Part of that meaning that whatever new general manager gets placed, that he's still there 2 years from now. That whatever adjustments in office staff that new manager chooses to make, those people are still there 2 years from now. And that as a result, we have much more trust within our community and certainly things starting to flow much smoother. Second goal is I really would like to see our community have a much greater sense of freedom. That our people are involved because they have a freedom to do things. Freedom to, why don't you put some flowers in front of your house if you want it. A freedom to make their surrounding areas as pleasant as it could be. The freedom to say, you know, that tree over there on Vista Campana is dying and looks terrible. I'm willing to pay for a new one to replace it. Greater freedom to make this the place we would like it to be. And my third goal is that we would have made some progress, hopefully by 2 years from now, a conclusion to the land lease matter that hangs over our head. You know, you hear about the increasing rate. That's not really a worry because that's only half of 1%, because we have half of the houses locked at, or I should say half of a cost of living. That's really not an issue. What do you have that's only going to go up half the cost of living for the next 40 years? The problem is replacement of the superstructure that's all, or the infrastructure that's everywhere. And now we have, and soon we'll have $1 billion that we're just throwing away on those land leases with getting nothing back.
Thank you, John. Sandy Reiser.
Thanks, Alon. And I just want to say thanks to the nominating committee. You guys have done a great job, so thank you. So I've heard a lot of things in these forums. I want to talk about that. I've heard that there's a board homeowner disconnect, but I hardly heard really any concrete suggestions. To the best of my knowledge, only one candidate here, thank you Kathleen, has actually come to the fireside chats this year. I heard the meeting should be shorter, but I think all board members need to put in the hard work and be prepared to listen to each other. If you want shorter meetings, what are you going to cut out? I heard here that a non-board member spoke with a key vendor before the contract was even signed. A candidate for the board should know that communication happens between a vendor with only management and the board for valid reasons. Talk to them, but not directly with the vendor. I know of committee chairs who just stopped meeting on the important topics that the committee is responsible for. Is that how we want the board to really work? This is a serious position, and you need to entrust to the right people to serve the community, and that will work in the terms of our code of conduct as well. If you don't know, we have one of those. And you need people who will work to make your life as a resident easier, better, and relaxing. So here's what I see we need in the next 2 years. Work to resolve our current legal issues. We are not sitting on our hands, believe me. I personally spend hours and hours each week on these issues. We just came out of deficit in December, 2 months ago. We spent all of the past year trying to catch up on $100,000 debt. In 2024, we're able to do much more and work on a deferred maintenance. My vision is that Oceana would be the best place where people would want to live, just not the best bargain in Oceanside. I want pride of ownership and great neighbors who help each other. You deserve to have a board that continues to work without personal agenda and adheres to these rules. Before you assume, learn the facts. Before you judge, understand why. Before you speak, think. You've seen that from me the past 2 years. If you want a board member who knows the work and can work with Evelyn and Lynn and Roxanne, then I'm asking for your vote.
Thank you, Sandy. Lisa Baggett.
Okay, it's going to be a wrap here. The biggest thing that I would like to see after serving for 2 years would be that I increased homeowner participation, that this board is homeowner driven, and that the end result is that we have some fun. I'm tired of the no fun. I want fun. And we can have fun. We've had a lot of fun. We can continue that fun. But to do that fun, we have to do this hard work. And the hard work, as I see it, would be encouraging our current board members who are staying on, which would be Roxanne, who's done an incredible amount of work with vendors, Lynn, who's worked relentlessly on costs and budgets, Evelyn, who's worked with the vendors, the community, and the VA to increase their participation. These are all very important things. What I would like to see is that we rein in board participation in our committees. Our committees are made of volunteers. They are not paid employees. They don't need to be micromanaged. If they have an issue, they can reach out to the board and ask the board to come in and suggest, offer, whatever they need to do. But in the meantime, allow the committees to run themselves. That is what we need. I see more and more of this micromanagement trying to come down and suffocate the various people on the committees. Also, I would like to see that the homeowners are looking forward to seeing us cut some costs, and that can be done. I believe we can do that very easily by focusing on opening our minds, thinking outside of the box, and then also increasing the beautification of our community. I do not say that I don't want to see flowers around our houses or things like that. Yes, we should be allowed to do things within reason around our immediate surroundings, but past that, no.
Thank you, Lisa. Please, let's give them a nice round of applause. This is a great honor. You should know all these questions came from the members. We put out an e-blast asking members to suggest questions, and every single question that you heard here today came from the members. This was about a month ago. So thank you. Thank you to you, people online, and thanks everybody for being here, and we're done. Thank you. Thank you.